Sticking with agriculture, in the past 12 months, 51 dairy farmers across New South Wales have packed up shop, deciding that it's no longer a feasible avenue for them. This has seen a drop in overall productivity by around 7%. New South Wales farmers are pushing for major retailers to lift the price of their generic milk brands to $1.50 per litre, and this is in order to help sustain the dairy industry across New South Wales. To discuss the campaign, I'm joined by Rob McIntosh, a dairy farmer from Berry in New South Wales. Rob, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you, Charlotte, for having me.
So earlier in the year, around February and March, we saw a lot of viral videos from dairy farmers basically explaining that they wanted the consumer to boycott the main retailers because they were selling $1 carton milks. I certainly feel like you guys have been forgotten a bit now that we're in November. Do you feel like the pressure's off now, that people have kind of forgotten about you and the dairy farming industry?
A little, because the conditions are changing all the time for us. Price is one thing of the retail milk, especially the home brand milk, because that will be the base which will determine other prices as well, whether it be the farmer brand type milks or even the whole cabinet of dairy products. They all tend to tee off that home brand type price. So it's important that if we can get some value back into the market chain, then it filters back to farmers, and we can start to actually plan a little bit to either recover from what's happened in the last 12 to 18 months, or even cope with probably what's going to happen in the next 6 months, which could be quite dramatic too.
You're fighting a few battles, really, because we've already seen this massive campaign at the start of the year, and that was really aimed at taking better care of our dairy farming industry. Now we've also seen a drop in productivity from the industry, because we've seen those farmers that have quit, packed up shop, deciding it's too hard. And obviously you've got kind of a bigger supply now that you guys will need to fill. And then you also have the worst drought on record in New South Wales. What price point would you like to see milk at, and do you think that it would actually end up going back to farmers?
Look, we'd like to see that $1.50 litre of milk for the home brand milk in our major retail centres, and we'd like to see the bulk of that, the majority of that, go back to farmers or directly to farmers. We now know that Coles are prepared to deal directly with farmers, and that's an important step. It's a different step for us. As I said, things are changing dramatically. So that dealing directly with a retailer does mean that there is some direct payment back to farmers. But it's quite a complex issue as to how the payments are spread out back to farmers from the different products. So it's a vexed one which we've got to cope with. But the reality is that price is probably the major determiner for us in trying to get some value back into our product. We're just finding that the daily fresh milk is being too much used as a loss leader. Because it is fresh, and they know we've got to produce it daily, and unfortunately...
So you think they're taking advantage of that?
I think so, and certainly the major supermarkets are telling us, the major retail stores are telling us that they've got to keep that down to keep the home basket cheap and try and give some good pricing back to the housewife. And we understand that, but reality is milk's still cheaper than water, a lot cheaper than water. And so we just don't understand that dynamic.
I don't understand it either. Do you think that this is something, because it just got so much attention at the start of the year, it felt like it was something that happened really quickly. It felt like all of a sudden the dairy farmers had enough. But has there been like a straw that broke the camel's back, or has this been something that's got progressively worse over the past few years?
Has gotten progressively worse, but I think the straw that really broke the camel's back was the fact that with increasing drought and water issues inland, where a lot of the major feed source comes from dairy, whether it be on the coast or inland. The commodity prices went up dramatically. We effectively saw a 100% increase in our own costs of production on our farm. And
right, so it was the cost that increased so much.
That's right.
And then you're getting so little.
Exactly, yes. And so that was the impact that we felt most dramatic. And the one thing that probably people don't realise is that it's not just farmers exiting. There's an enormous amount of cattle that have gone out of the dairy scene in the last 12 months, mainly because cattle prices have been quite good. So in our own area, I know our two major milk suppliers who collectively would be milking 2,000 or 3,000 cows have halved their numbers. So about 1,500 cows just from those two dairies alone have gone to market just because they couldn't afford to feed them any longer with the current milk prices and the current prevailing conditions.
I didn't prep you on this one, so sorry for throwing you under the bus, but I'm just curious, where's the main area of, I guess, land in New South Wales that is really dairy farmers' land? You're down in Berry. Is that one of the primary areas for that?
Berry's always I talk about the Shoalhaven South Coast area. It's one of the safe areas of New South Wales for dairy because it's always had a fairly regular rainfall. It's close to the city market, and there's good alluvial flats out from the floodplain area from the Southern Highlands. And certainly right down to Bega, that's a fairly true statement.
But you did say there was some in drought and also fire-affected regions as well.
Oh, absolutely. So I would have thought North Coast was the same sort of condition that we would be normally in. It's normally a very safe area, but now we've seen fires there that have just decimated things like areas like Johns River, Hannam Vale, Taree, traditional dairying areas, which will see more and more pressure put on the supply of dairy fresh milk and
I'm just nervous that is why we'll see the prices go up. They'll have to put the prices up because there's a less supply because of that increased demand, and you guys still won't see as much.
Well, that would be a really sad situation, and I hope that doesn't occur. But it was 12 months ago I was telling a group of farmers and whoever else wanted to hear that we were going to end up being a net importer of dairy. And a lot of people thought that was crazy. But here we are with a situation where we may well not be able to support the consumption of daily fresh milk and dairy product.
Because so many are leaving? So many are leaving the industry?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right.
And we just won't be able to keep up the supply, even with milk coming over the borders, which there is. But as export demand comes, then that won't always be available either. So there's a real issue at the moment with daily fresh supply of dairy products and especially liquid milk.
Just finally, Pauline Hanson has been pushing for a minimum price for milk, but her private member's bill was voted down 2 weeks ago. What do you make of the political debate around this? Do you think they're getting the sense of urgency?
Look, I hate to comment on politics too much. We all have our own views. But I guess the reality is that a floor price is fairly artificial, and if it applies to dairy, why shouldn't it then apply to all agricultural products? We're not just on our own here. There's an enormous amount of agricultural products out there hurting at this present time, whether it's chooks, whether it's beef, sheep, whatever you'd like to think about at the present time. We're all under stress. We're not an isolated incident. So how do you go putting a floor price in all those situations? It's a very difficult call.
We've seen 51 dairy farmers leave the industry in the past year, and there's no sign of significant rainfall on the horizon for many of them that are in drought-affected areas. What are your thoughts on the future of the industry?
Look, I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm lucky at home. We have two sons that are well qualified, and they've chosen to be involved in agriculture. One's a vet, another one's an agronomist, and one's working with me at home. So I'm one of the fortunate ones. I have some support on the farm, but we have had our family planning meeting, and we've talked hard about the next 6 to 12 months, and there's no real answer to how we're going to pull through that. We just hope that the current environment doesn't turn into a really dry time on the coast as well. We're really conscious that Shoalhaven could be hit with the ravages of bushfires, which we've had before as well. At this stage, we're good. We're probably one of the safe areas, but our coastal streams are really running dry now, and we're starting to suffer in the hands of this really quickly impending dry summer, and it's quite alarming.
Right, well, we'll keep you in our thoughts. Hopefully you get some significant rainfall soon, but certainly a lot more needs to be done for the dairy industry, I think.
Thanks
for your time, Rob.
Thanks a lot.